It's not the mayor, it's not the alderman, it's not the city manager who make a community work. It's people who really care about the community and do their thing behind the scenes. And I think that that's the great thing about an Al Parker is not just the things that you know of that he's recognized for, but that he did an awful lot of things that no one ever heard about, and nor were they supposed to hear about.
He knew that he came from humble circumstances and that Canada was a land of opportunity. If you were willing to work, you could achieve, no matter what your background was. He took great pride in being a Canadian. He was proud of his history as a Black person whose family had contributed to the building of Canada. He was a caring person. He cared for his family and his community. What he achieved, he wanted others to achieve.
Alton Parker achieved a great deal. He was born in 1907 in the predominantly black Glengarry area of Windsor, Ontario. His family was deeply religious. In his early teens, his mother died, and he and his sister were raised by his father.
When Daddy was a teenager, his father was quite strict. Several of his friends were going joyriding, and he was all set to go until the last minute when his father suggested he hadn't finished a chore, hadn't done it properly, and kept him home. Well, I remember him saying that on that occasion, I don't know whether they ran out of gas or what happened, but there was a holdup involved and a shooting. And that made a great impression on him. He never forgot that instance and said, "There, but for the grace of God, go I."
Perhaps this incident sparked his lifelong concern for young people and his desire to see a better world for them. A world unencumbered by racial intolerance such as he had experienced, even on his wedding night.
They were going to the Mecca of all honeymooners, Niagara Falls, and my father was driving a smart little roadster that he had worked so very hard reconditioning. But when they got to Niagara Falls, they couldn't find a hotel that would accept them because of their blackness. So they ended up spending their wedding night in the car.
While his deep religious convictions saw him through these trials, he became increasingly determined to break down racial intolerance. He started right in his own community by joining and later becoming president of the Central Citizens Association.
During my father's younger years, there was a Central Citizens Association, which was made up of Black residents. And one of the issues they addressed was the limited employment for Blacks in the area. We have been taxpayers in the area since before Windsor was incorporated as a city, and yet the number of employees in the city government were nil. So this organization went to the city fathers, addressed that issue, and were told, send us some qualified young people and we'll see what we can do. Now, my father and two others applied to the police department, and he was selected. Now, at this time, he was employed in Detroit in his trade, which was an auto mechanic. He was foreman of the used car department at Nash, Detroit, and making pretty good money. So he had some decision-making to do. He and my mom discussed it, endlessly. It would mean a cut in pay. It would mean a lot of sacrifices. He was used to being his own boss, and now he would be an underling. And the decision was made that he would go ahead, accept the appointment, and work with it.
On September 1st, 1942, Alton Parker became the second black hired by the Windsor Police Department, the first to actually be employed as a constable.
He loved police work. He saw it as an opportunity to help. He believed in the newer concept that we're talking about now, police service rather than a police force. He was a believer then. He believed that police personnel were in the community to serve the community.
You could see this in his demeanor and in his approach to everything that he got involved with. It seemed like he felt he was really overcoming something, not for himself, but on behalf of all the people that he represented.
From the beginning, he encouraged other blacks not only, to join the police force, but to spread out into different vocations. He encouraged young men who certainly expressed an interest in policing as a career, and when he came upon some that he thought could become interested, he did encourage them. He was a recruiter.
His gains within the police force were not without a price.
When it came to arresting, if someone had broken the law, he was there to serve the law. But when it came to blacks, I don't believe he showed it, but it took an emotional toll because these were his people. And in the case of young people, I think he just wondered, had things been different, would it have been this way? He felt strongly that the community at large perhaps had let these young people down, that the system did not treat them equitably, but he also felt that the black community had a responsibility towards these young people too. And I know that he was torn.
While some of his police colleagues were supportive, others were less so. Yet, Alton remained determined to perform the same functions and demand the same respect as other members of the force.
Alton at one time was working on the afternoon shift, and his area was Wyandotte and Willette. That was part of his beat. And he was standing, he had done all his doors and was standing on the corner. And one of the senior officers, who was off duty at the time, came along and called him over to the car and told him that there was a broken bottle on the street and told him to get a broom and to pick it up. And at this time, Alton told him that he was hired as a policeman and not a street sweeper, and that if he wanted the glass picked up, they better call the Board of Works because he wasn't picking it up. And the officer drove away without Alton picking up the glass.